What if I told you that an Amish teenager can save up enough money from farm work and carpentry jobs to buy a car, hide it at an English neighbor's property, drive it on back roads after dark, and that the community he is hiding it from will almost certainly find out before he is ready for them to? What the car meant. To an Amish boy who has spent 16 years moving at the speed of a horse, a car is not transportation. It is everything the Ordnung was built to prevent: speed, independence, access, and the ability to go somewhere without anyone knowing where. The car means he can leave at 10 o'clock at night and be 20 miles away before his parents have finished their evening prayers. It means the world outside his district is no longer theoretical. It is 30 minutes down a paved road waiting for him whenever he decides to go. How he bought it. The money came from work. Amish teenage boys are capable laborers in carpentry crews, on construction sites, at farm stands, in furniture shops. They earn real wages, and they have almost nothing to spend them on inside the community. No phone bills, no entertainment costs, no clothing expenses beyond what the household provides. A boy who works steadily through his 15th and 16th year can accumulate several $1,000s without anyone outside his immediate household tracking where it goes. He bought it through an English contact, a coworker, a neighbor, someone outside the community who could navigate the transaction without raising questions. Cash purchase. Older model. Nothing that required insurance paperwork he could not explain. The title went into someone else's name or his own, depending on how carefully he planned it. Where it was hidden, it could not come home. Parking a car in an Amish driveway is not a secret, it is an announcement. What Amish teenagers who buy cars during Rumspringa have done for generations is find a place outside the community's immediate sightline. An English neighbor who agrees to let it sit in their driveway or barn. A rented space in a nearby town. A friend's garage a few miles down a road. The community does not travel regularly. He visited it the way someone visits something they are not supposed to have, carefully at specific times, with an awareness of who might be on the road between home and where it was parked. The car existed in a separate geography from his Amish life. He moved between the two and kept them from touching as long as he could. What it unlocked? The first time he drove alone, not as a passenger in an English person's vehicle, but as the one behind the wheel, in control of the speed and the direction and the destination, something shifted in him that he did not have words for yet. He could go to the gas station at 9 at night and nobody would know. He could drive to a town where nobody recognized him and walk through a grocery store or a McDonald's or a parking lot full of English teenagers his own age and be entirely anonymous. He could listen to the radio at whatever volume he chose, with no one in the next room to hear it. He could take a road he had never been down simply because it was there and he was curious, and the car would go wherever he pointed it. What the car unlocked was not just physical access to the outside world. It was the experience of making decisions without the community's knowledge and discovering that those decisions did not immediately result in the consequences he had been taught to expect. The world outside was not dangerous in the way the Ordnung implied. It was ordinary, loud in different ways, full of people who were not watching him. That discovery is more disorienting for many Amish teenagers than any single thing they encounter in it. His parents find out. His parents find out the way Amish parents find out most things their teenagers are doing, not through confrontation, but through accumulation. Small details that do not quite fit. He comes home later than he said he would. There is a faint smell on his jacket that belongs to somewhere else. He mentions something he should not know about, a place he should not have been. A neighbor mentions seeing a car parked down the road that was not there last week. His mother asks a careful question. His father grows quiet in the particular way that means he already knows more than he is saying. What follows is not always the dramatic confrontation that an outsider might expect. Many Amish parents have a complicated relationship with their teenagers' Rumspringa behavior. They know the period exists, they understand something of what it contains, and they have made a private decision about how strictly to enforce the household rules during it. Some fathers tell their sons directly that the car cannot come home and cannot be known about by the bishop. Some mothers cry and say nothing more. Others make clear that whatever he is doing, The decision he is approaching is real and permanent, and they are waiting for him to make it. What almost no Amish parent does is pretend they do not know. They know. They have decided what to do with knowing, and that decision shapes everything that follows in the household. What Rumspringa allows. The common understanding of Rumspringa that it is a period of complete freedom during which Amish teenagers can do anything without consequence is significantly overstated. Rumspringa, which translates roughly as running around, begins around age 16 and continues until a young person either joins the church through baptism or leaves the community. During this period, an unbaptized teenager is not formally under the authority of the church. The bishop cannot shun someone who has not yet made a baptismal vow. But not being under church authority is not the same as being free of all expectations. He still lives under his parents' roof in most cases. He still operates within a community that has eyes everywhere and opinions about everything. His parents are still church members whose standing in the community can be affected by what their son is visibly doing. And the community's informal pressure, the looks, the questions, the careful conversations operates entirely independently of whether the bishop has formal grounds to act. In stricter communities, Rumspringa is quiet. A boy might go to a singing, spend time with friends from other districts, and push no further than that. In larger settlements like Lancaster County or Holmes County, Ohio, the range of behavior is wider cars, apartments in town, parties, phones, English clothing. But even in the most permissive Rumspringa environments, a car that becomes visible is a car that invites a response. The period of freedom is real. It is also watched. The community's reaction. The community's reaction to a teenager's car does not begin with the bishop. It begins with neighbors. A car spotted on a road it should not be on. A vehicle parked near a property where no English family lives. Someone who recognized the boy at a gas station in town. The information travels through the community's informal channels, not gossiping exactly, but the natural movement of observation through a network of people who pay attention to each other's lives as a matter of daily habit. What the community does with that information depends on the settlement and the specific family involved. In some districts, Rumspringa behavior is quietly tolerated as long as it stays sufficiently out of sight. Community members who spot the car look the other way because they understand the period and because they were young once and because they are not the bishop. In others, the car is reported to a deacon, to an elder, to someone who will pass it up the chain until it reaches the person whose job it is to respond. Some community members mention it directly to his parents, not as an accusation, but as a heads up delivered in the language of concern. Your son was seen. You may want to talk to him. The parents already know, but the fact that the community is now aware changes the equation. What was private is now a community matter, and a community matter requires a community response. The bishop's position. The bishop's options in this situation are more limited than they might appear. A teenager who has not been baptized cannot be formally disciplined by the church. The bishop cannot announce the ban against someone who never made a vow. What he can do is speak privately, carefully, in the way that Amish bishops speak when they want to be understood without making a declaration. He may visit the family. He may sit with the boy directly in a conversation that is framed as pastoral concern rather than church discipline. He makes clear what the community expects. He makes clear what baptism means and what it will require. He does not threaten. He does not need to. The threat is implicit in the entire structure of the conversation that the period of freedom the boy is currently in will eventually close, and that what he has done during it will become part of the context in which his decision about baptism is understood. In some communities, the bishop says nothing directly to the boy at all. He speaks to the father. The father speaks to the son. The chain of accountability runs through the family rather than directly from the church to the teenager. Either way, the message arrives. The car has been noticed. The community is paying attention. And the window he has been driving through is not going to stay open indefinitely. 2 polls, 1 choice. What the car has done, what it was always going to do, is make the choice real in a way it was not before he had the key in his pocket. Before the car, staying Amish was the path he was on by default. It required no decision, it simply continued. The car forced a decision by demonstrating that an alternative was available and accessible and not as terrifying as he had been led to believe. Now he feels two pulls simultaneously. The pull of the car is the pull of freedom of the radio and the road and the anonymity of a world that does not know his name or his family or the specific set of rules he was raised inside. It is the pull of possibility, of the feeling that his life could go in directions he has not yet imagined. The pull of the community is harder to name, but not smaller. It is the pull of his mother's voice at the kitchen table. It is the pull of belonging to something that will still be there at 50 and 60 and 70 in a way that the English world, with its distances and its loneliness and its requirement that a person build everything from scratch, cannot guarantee. It is the pull of knowing exactly who you are and where you fit and what is expected of you, which is a kind of freedom too, even when it does not feel like one. More than 85% of Amish teenagers who go through Rumspringa return to the community and choose baptism. The car is rarely the thing that keeps them from coming back. What keeps them is whether they find something on the other side of that road that the community cannot provide. Most do not find it. Most find that the English world is ordinary and lonely in ways the Ordnung never was. What he decided where this ends depends entirely on the boy, on what he found behind the wheel, on what he found when he came home, on what his parents said and did not say, on what the bishop's visit felt like, and on what he wants his life to look like at 40. Some boys sell the car before the bishop's visit is finished. They return to the community, go through baptism, and build the life that was always waiting for them. They carry the car as a memory, something they did, something they needed to do, something that confirmed rather than undermined the choice they were always going to make. In later years, they mention it with a kind of calm that surprised them when it arrived. Others keep driving. The car becomes the beginning of a longer journey out of the Rumspringa gray zone and into a full departure from the community. They get their license. They find an apartment. They go through the disorienting, difficult, sometimes exhilarating process of building an English life from the ground up. They carry the community with them in ways they did not expect, in how they work, in how they relate to other people, in the specific quality of their grief on Sunday mornings when they are not going anywhere. And some land somewhere in between, not fully Amish, not fully English, driving a car that no longer needs to be hidden because the community they were hiding it from has already been left behind in ways they are still learning to account for. The car was never really about the car. It was about what the car made possible, the experience of a self that existed outside the community's knowledge, that made decisions without accountability, that moved through the world at a speed the Ordnung was specifically designed to prevent. The Amish prohibition on car ownership is not primarily about safety or expense. It is about the kind of person a car makes possible. Independent, mobile, connected to a world that pulls in directions the community cannot follow. What the boy who secretly bought the car was testing was not whether he could get away with it. He knew he probably could not, and he was right. What he was testing was whether the world the car gave him access to was better than the world the car required him to leave. Whether the freedom on the other side of the community's fence was worth the belonging he would give up to reach it. Most Amish teenagers who ask that question, who drive the back roads at night with the radio on and the windows down and no one watching, eventually come back. Not because the outside world failed to deliver what they imagined, but because what the community delivers, the certainty, the belonging, the weight of being known by people who have known you your entire life, turns out to be something they are not willing to trade. The car gets sold, or it gets kept. Either way, the road he drove on it, the one that ran between the world he was raised in and the world he was curious about, is a road he will remember for the rest of his life. Because it is the road where he found out who he was going to be. And that road runs through every person in every community, regardless of how they travel it.